Welcome back, Earthlings, to another episode of the Amateur Space Archaeologist. I'm your host, Anthony Steinhardt. This episode will focus on the controversial Topock Maze, also known as the Mystic Maze, in Needles, California. First, a little bit about the area where the maze is located, Needles, California. Needles sits just west of the Colorado River at the tri-state crossroads of California, Arizona, and Nevada. The city was named for the nearby Pinnacle mountain peaks ranging between 1,200 and 1,600 feet above sea level, just across the Colorado River in Arizona. Needles was established as a location to house railroad workers during the construction of the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway. The city was founded in 1883 and eventually incorporated on October 30th, 1913, as a California charter city. The city grew into the largest stop on the Colorado River north of Yuma, Arizona, as it was the gateway into Southern California for people traveling out west. And in 1926, with the construction of the historic U.S. Route 66, even more travelers would make their pit stops in Needles, filling up on gas and food, thus causing the little desert town to thrive. Needles even makes an appearance in John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath as the Joad family crosses from Arizona into California. The city was also home to Charles Schulz, the creator of the Peanuts comic strip, who lived there as a boy. However, the city's heyday is long behind it and has been in decline in recent years, with its decline accelerating since the Great Recession of 2008. Many of the city's businesses have closed down, and newer businesses have chosen to open up in nearby Bullhead City, Arizona, due to their lower corporate taxes and building regulations than would be found in California. Being known for extreme heat during the summer months doesn't help either, as the city routinely reaches highs of 120 degrees Fahrenheit and is frequently reported by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration as the site of the highest daily temperature recorded in the U.S. But long before Western expansion and European exploration, the Needles area was home to First Nation or Native American people known as the Mojaves for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. The Mojaves have a long history of using the land to communicate with other travelers through the use of petroglyphs and geoglyphs found throughout the Colorado River region. Which brings us to the controversial Mystic Maze. There are varying accounts about the history of the maze and its purpose. Was the so-called maze a part of a larger spiritual complex that the Mojaves used? Or perhaps the maze is the result of the nearby railway construction in more modern times? Unfortunately, we may never know, but here is what has been said about the Mystic Maze. According to some stories told by the Mojaves, the maze had existed before their arrival on the land and was made by the Old Ones. However, the maze is not a true maze with an entrance and exit point. Instead, the site is a series of windrows placed in a geometric pattern. Some evidence suggests that the maze was once part of a group of nearby geoglyphs. Unfortunately, during the construction of the railroad in the 1880s, tracks were laid right through the maze, not only causing destruction to the maze, but also destroying a nearby geoglyph of a human figure holding a snake. Before the intrusion of the railway through the Mojave territory, the maze had various spiritual uses for the Mojave people. One such use was the belief that the maze was a spiritual portal to the next life, where bad souls could get lost and good souls could find their way and complete the maze to cross over to the afterlife. Another use, according to research by archaeologist Albert H. Schroeder, the Mojave used to put some of their men in the center of the area of alignment and then left them to find their way out of the maze without crossing the gravel alignments. By doing this, they would leave the devil behind them. Other stories tell of warriors returning from battle and would have to run through the maze, leaving any bad spirits behind. And similarly, an account in 1908 by American photographer Edward Curtis said it was believed that by running in and out through one of these immense labyrinths, a person haunted by a ghost would confuse the spirit and leave it behind. Perhaps these stories about the maze and its ability for spiritual cleansing are true. However, there are very different accounts of the maze's origins and use, including one in 1891 by Chief Engineer Samuel M. Rowe of the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad, who oversaw the construction of the nearby Red Rock Cantilever Bridge. Mr. Rose stated the maze was created during the construction of the railway in the 1880s by indigenous people hired by construction contractors. The men would rake up gravel and use a buck scraper on nearby mesa terraces, then transport the gravel to the site where the Red Rock Cantilever Bridge was under construction for use in the caisson work. The California Department of Public Works also documented interviews with 2 Mojave witnesses, one of which was Mr. Hiram McCord's account of knowing 8 Mojaves being hired to rake gravel near the bridge, and the other account was from a Mojave elder, Charlie Hamilton, whose original name before the United States exerted its cultural influence on his tribe was Ova Haliabach. Mr. Hamilton was the oldest of the Maha clan and for 50 years a tribal witness and advisor. He stated he actually saw the rocks being raked by 8 Mojaves and that he rode on the wagons that hauled the rocks to the bridge site. As time passes, the truth behind the Topock maze may never come to light. What is interesting to note is that a campaign to save the maze from further destruction had to do with preserving it as a roadside attraction by Congressman William Brother Bill Kettner for the upcoming Panama, California Exposition of 1915 and 1916 in San Diego, California. The promoters of the event had hoped to encourage people traveling from the east to come to California on the National Old Trails Road, which was eventually replaced by Route 66 and happened to pass right through the maze. The maze had become an important political and economical attraction regardless of the reality of its development. However, the pursuit of trying to establish the Topock maze as a national monument started in 1916 when C.F. Houck, the chief clerk of the Office of Indian Affairs, called for the maze to be a national monument. Further inspection by the General Land Office's mineral inspector H.W. McFerrin felt the maze was not of national interest. Also complicating the matter was that the maze was located on railroad land and could not be established as a national monument by presidential proclamation. In 1932, Yellowstone National Park Superintendent Roger Toll declared the site of considerable archaeological importance, but it was a feature of importance to the state of California, not of national interest sufficient to warrant its consideration as a national monument. It wouldn't be until 1978 when the Topock maze would finally be listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Whether or not the maze is of symbolic or ritual significance to the Mojave people, the area surrounding the maze clearly is. The maze itself has been a valuable roadside attraction for over 100 years, and the controversy over its age, origin, and function add to the importance of the preservation of the site. Thanks for watching another episode of the Amateur Space Archaeologist. I hope I've inspired the citizen scientists inside of you to explore the world around you, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.